Hello, everybody. Thank you for giving me a couple minutes out of your day today. Whether you smoke weed or not, chances are you know someone who smokes weed either for recreational purposes or medicinal purposes. Currently, right now, there is a big discrepancy between state and federal law regarding the legality of marijuana usage and possession. Personally, I've seen many family members of mine and friends feel the wrath of the law for simply possessing minor amounts of marijuana. The fact that states across the country have passed the legalization of marijuana for medicinal and or recreational purposes, it should prompt our lawmakers to take it one step further and decriminalize marijuana on a federal level by removing it off the Schedule I drug list. The fact that there's a contradiction between state and federal law regarding marijuana usage and possession undermines our laws, and it's only due to government representatives that are out of touch with their citizens. The fact that marijuana is on the Schedule I drug list has resulted in many people feeling unjust drug sentencing charges for minor possession of marijuana throughout the years. And the fact that it's on the Schedule I drug list with heroin and cocaine and methamphetamines, etc., it is implying that marijuana has no medical value whatsoever. And I think we all, if we haven't been living under a rock in the last 15 years, there's been plenty of studies and research done on marijuana to show that it does have medical value for those that may need it, depending on what kind of pain and what kind of issues some are suffering, eating disorders. Marijuana does have medical value. And for that reason alone, it should be removed off the Schedule I drug list. And the fact that it hasn't shows you that there is a certain bias that exists within our government regarding the perspective on marijuana. And according to John Gramlich, who cited Pew Research Center, 4 out of 10 drug arrests are due to the sale, manufacture, or possession of marijuana. And that kind of tells me that there's a lot of effort on the law enforcement level going towards enforcing these laws regarding marijuana possession, when studies and research and even laws that have passed throughout the states, it's pointing and heading towards the direction of marijuana is not as bad as it's been made out to be throughout the years. And so I think if it was decriminalized on the federal level, that 4 out of 10 drug arrests would result in a translation of there would be stricter law enforcement on these other more serious drugs that are on the streets and probably don't get as much attention because they're not as, say, easy to bust as a marijuana possession, And the fact that the federal and state laws disagree with each other, it creates a possibility of the DEA enforcing federal law on you in a state where maybe the state passed possession of marijuana to be legal for recreational or medicinal purposes. But the DEA can pretty much enforce its federal law regarding marijuana on you anywhere at any time as it sees fit. And I think that alone creates a certain, insecurity within our own justice system for everyday citizens who think they're just enjoying another freedom that they voted for. And that in itself, isn't very American. But these issues aren't new, and they've been like this for years. Ever since these states have started passing these laws regarding marijuana, this contradiction has existed, and it's basically just a result of these government officials being out of touch with the citizens that they serve. Ever since President Nixon, during his time, enacted the DEA and threw marijuana on the Schedule I drug list, there has been a negative outlook and perspective on marijuana as a whole within our society. And a lot of our leadership in Congress are of that older generation, to where those negative outlooks on marijuana and that negative bias is still prevalent and exists today, which is what's held up progress being made within legalization of, say, marijuana decriminalization. Because there's certain fears that exist within society that is holding it up to like about 79% of Americans who oppose legalization of marijuana oppose it because they fear it's going to result in more impaired drivers on the road driving under the influence, which is totally understandable. But that same fear and risk exists already with other substances that are legal, such as alcohol. So I think relying something on like that to keep marijuana from being legal, I don't think is necessarily fair for all of us or those who are responsible marijuana users. Just like there's people that responsibly use alcohol as well. They don't drive under the influence. And I think there's a good chance that a lot of people who do use marijuana, if it was decriminalized and maybe more people would start using it, I think it would be something that people use in a responsible way, not something that they would jeopardize themselves or others. But despite the growing support for legalization, and the increasing evidence of the medicinal value that marijuana has, lawmakers have yet to remove it off the Schedule I drug list. And I really feel it's due to the fact that a lot of our representatives in Congress are of an older generation and they have a negative bias towards marijuana. But with that being said, and marijuana being federally illegal as it is right now, that can change, but we gotta increase the pressure on our representatives that can make that happen. We can't let this government that's been strict on marijuana all these years kind of maintain that same bias perspective towards it, because according to Nicholas Fandos, that might be changing. Nicholas Fandos had an article in the New York Times covering how Senator Schumer recently introduced a bill that would remove marijuana off the Schedule I drug list. So even though I chose this topic to do for my speech, it's actually something that is relevant to today, and there is a chance that we could be seeing a major change with the decriminalization of marijuana here soon. But the support looks pretty grim, so I wouldn't hold my breath on that, because the reason why I think it has a chance is because that there is a growing support in the whole country. If these representatives actually wanted to translate the perspective of marijuana from the American citizens into law, it would be decriminalized, because about 68% of Americans favor the legalization of marijuana as it is today. And the fact that states across the country have legalized marijuana for both recreational and medicinal purposes, it should prompt our lawmakers to finally make that move and decriminalize marijuana by removing it off the Schedule I drug list. It's time to remove marijuana off the Schedule I drug list so it can stop the negative impact it has on people with unjust incarceration sentencing across the country. And it's undermining the laws that we vote for as American citizens. So when you hear about this proposal bill, in the news and what it might mean, basically it's a chance to fix our current laws regarding marijuana to where it is up to the states and what the states say go. Because as it is right now, if the states pass legalization of marijuana, there's a chance that federal level, you still feel the wrath of the law. And just so everybody knows, if you haven't ever seen marijuana before, it is green. This is what you call a little nug or bud, just to have that visual representation of it. There's a small example of what marijuana looks like. I hope you guys learned something today, and be watching out for the news, because maybe something will change here shortly. Take care and have a good rest of the year, everybody.